Hello, everybody. It's Dissonant Waves, episode
Yeah,
10. Halloween episode.
spooky, spooky, spooky.
Ooh.
Ooh.
We got
Flight
three
22 was off
spooky
to
bands.
Honolulu. Flight 22 was off to Honolulu. So I'm just going to do this in the next 90 minutes.
Three spooky bands and four spooky albums to listen to this week.
Yeah,
I,
The
don't,
only two of them are
AFI,
really spooky.
I think only the
the
AFI ones are
Avalanches,
spooky here.
Yeah, I kind of wish I ended up changing to a surf goth
ruining
album.
my intro here.
Of course we are. Because your intro is wrong.
We got AFI, the Avalanches, and Rush. AFI, 2 EPs, Fire Inside EP, and All Hallows EP, the actual spooky Halloween shit you come for. Avalanches is a beautiful Frankenstein's monster of a hour-long, just amazing bit of music.
Sample,
Another
sample,
Rush.
Then we got
sample,
Rush's
sample.
this X1 saga, which is there. Got a Riddlin and Tricks here with me, as always. How y'all doing?
Pretty well.
And we got some spooky stuff to talk about. But before we get there, how about we just talk about Rush?
All right.
It's about the Cygnus X1 cycle.
I just want to say something about the Cygnus that I was going to say before this. I do not know why it is two songs here when there were so many kind of just blank cuts and then swaps to the next part of the song anyway, that it may as well just be multiple songs.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, well, you're right. They're broken up into like chapters with each song.
Yeah, and they're all part of the saga. I don't get that. Don't get me wrong on that. I can understand how they all fit with each other, but why is it still just all in the same song when it could easily just be different songs?
Because it was the 70s and 20-minute songs were in vogue.
Rush was kind of the ones that made 20-minute songs in vogue, weren't they?
Yes did first.
Well, isn't Hemispheres during the time when they well, I mean, a lot of Russia's discography is like this. Well, isn't that during the time where they were literally just as high as they could be every time they were writing a song?
Oh, completely. They
'Cause,
performed this album in kimonos.
Because I think it's a song off Hemispheres, the trees, which, we're not talking about Hemispheres, we're only talking about the Cygnus, but I think it's the trees in which a lot of people found, like, would claim, oh, it's this really spiritual song about belonging and stuff, but actually it's just based on some cartoon that they watched while fucking high.
I always just thought it was about like
If you
search, if you look at the lyrics,
I'm pretty sure
it's
if you
about
look at the story behind the trees, it's about a cartoon that's popular in Canada.
Here's the thing,
It
everybody.
makes sense. That's the end.
Technically, the Cygnus X1 songs are in Farewell to Kings and Hemispheres, Book 1, Book 2. But technically, Rush did release an EP for Record Day in 2017 of the two songs by themselves. Actually, their last release, so if you want to count this as that EP or just these two songs, that's up to you. Just talking about these cool songs.
There's something I forgot to bring up during the whole briefing of this, and that is that there's a Marvel comic of the entire Cygnus series. It's just the lyrics.
They did like Star Wars comics and stuff around that time. That's interesting.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
Rush
I'll
have
see if I
always
can find
been
it.
a pretty story-based band in a lot of their longer songs, so that would actually be pretty interesting to read.
I'll find it and put it in the Discord.
Obviously, one of the most popular ones of that was in Guitar Hero Warriors of Rock, when there's the whole level based off 2112, and it was telling that whole story and the interviews of everything in that.
I don't remember that at all.
Me either. I didn't play the Guitar Hero.
Oh, it's
stories.
Warriors of Rock. Okay,
Yeah,
never mind.
it was the last one. There's this whole level just based off the whole story of 2112.
That's cool. I know that in the book, no matter what your opinion on it is on it, Ready Player One,
Oh,
there's a whole section where there's a whole Rush reference. It's all about 2112.
I mean,
Vaguely
they
remember
are
that.
one of the most like well-known, as prog rock as type of their genre. I'm not gonna fully say it, bands of all time. I mean, I'm pretty sure the first like actual album that I picked up on CD was 2112.
Here's my thing,
I don't know
okay?
where the
Is
fuck it
that
is though.
I really like prog rock, but for whatever reason, I never really got into Rush. They were always just kind of, that other band that's there that has Geddy Lee doing his vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad to have this opportunity to listen to these two songs that make up a really significant part of their catalog. But outside of okay, it's great musicianship. I get that. I still haven't found anything that's really hooked me yet.
Well, I'm a pretty
It's
mainstream.
fair.
I'm a pretty mainstream Rush fan, which is like I've never bothered ever to get into their full discography. I've only albums I've listened to in full before, like not including this EP. And by saying fan, I'm like not actually a fan. I've just kind of listened to them. But 2112 and probably their most accessible effort are Moving Pictures.
Definitely.
The longer this show goes on, you'll see that I'm going to start throwing in some real wild tracks. Like, I really dig long songs, really progressively, just constantly changing stuff.
I only
This
listened
should
to
be
Car
up
Seat
my alley.
Headrest.
Yeah, you Australian fuck. We get that.
Car Seat Headrest isn't even Australian. You fucker. You've done it wrong.
It's a dumb American, as we all know.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I just don't understand. Like, I wish I could like these more. I don't know why I don't. This should be up my alley.
I can understand that.
I don't know if it's
not
just
like the most accessible Rush to get into. When I was rediscovering and re-listening to Rush because I used to listen to it a lot in my youth because my father played, and then when I started listening to it on my own, like I would listen a lot to like Signals, which is the '81 album that I think came after Moving Pictures. I'd listen to Moving Pictures. I'd listen to their earlier stuff too, but I didn't want to like Permanent Waves and Caress of Steel, but I didn't really want to get into like their longer stuff yet. And like it took an effort for me to first listen to Hemispheres, and I loved it after. It's one of those things where you shouldn't. It's as weird as it sounds. When you jump into it, you wouldn't really enjoy it as much. Like I think if you listened in through the whole album for A Farewell to Kings, like in through Xanadu, which Xanadu is another like 10-minute prog rock song they're playing on double mix.
that could be. Maybe it's just out of context. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, also, I feel like these songs evoke a very specific type of sci-fi fantasy that's very pulpy, very like dime store kind of stuff. I feel not like in a necessarily negative way, but like the thing like the books that are like I don't know Mech Warrior but are not Mech Warrior, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, the knockoffs
Like Sub
are still
Robotech.
fun.
Yeah,
Like Star Trek and Star Wars.
but like
Kidding.
the sub Star Wars Star
I
Trek.
was making a joke that Star Trek was sub Star Wars, even though it's
Oh, you
it's the
were?
opposite.
I've never
Yes,
seen a
I'm-
Star Trek, so
I'm not on either side of the fence, really. They're both good. I just felt like I had to throw a jab in there.
you can get my Star Wars opinions if you want. I don't know if this is really the place for that.
Don't worry, I probably had the worst Star Wars opinion.
I
Oh, you want to
like
get
it.
into this? What is your opinion?
I didn't even like A New Hope.
It's
Oh
fair.
wow!
I am impressed by the whole like how they've made the movie. Don't get me wrong on that. For actual enjoyment of the movie, I just don't really. I don't know. It's probably
That's
the worst
fair.
opinion out there. Someone's
No, I
probably
can
gonna
understand it.
someone's gonna shoot me down.
It's-
Not you
it's-
two. Not you two. You know damn well some
It's-
random Star Wars fan will find us and just shoot me down.
I'm
That's
going to
the
say a
thing.
controversial thing. It's one of the most straightforward tellings of the hero's journey.
That's kind of why I don't like that stuff. I hate the hero's journey. I want it to die.
Mm-hmm.
But at least everyone can get on my opinion that The Last Jedi is a fucking shit film.
I like the Last
No,
Jedi.
not at all.
I like the Last Jedi.
Here's the thing. I only like 2 Star Wars movies. A New Hope, which I like a
Episode
fair
1 and
amount.
Episode 2.
Jar
But
Jar
The
Binks is
Last
the best
Jedi-
character in all of movies.
Last Jedi is my favorite Star Wars film. One I really enjoy and is in my top 5 films of all time.
Hey, Chicks, you want to find a replacement for
magnificent
Dominic?
effort.
Do I
It is a
want to what?
magnificent effort.
Do you want to find a replacement for Dominic? He's got no taste.
As long as he just said Episode 1 wasn't his favorite.
I like Episode 1 more than most people. It's probably somewhere in the top 5 of my Star Wars movies, but beyond the first 2, I really don't care.
I couldn't like the last one.
Like-
It just was so. It's just so shit. Everything about it was just boring as fuck, in my opinion. I couldn't find any bit of
Star
enjoyment.
Wars is usually boring as fuck is the problem.
Have you guys read any of the now legacy but like extended universe shit?
Much. I played KOTOR. I like that.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on there, like the R5D4, the other R type robot that Uncle Ben almost buys. There's an explanation in the comic that the droid was force sensitive, and that he caused himself to malfunction because he saw that R2D2 had a great future ahead of him. And I thought that was some grade A bullshit.
Reminds me of the video Red Letter Media put out where they read out the history of Darth Vader's suit and how he got fitted into a suit. And it's like a 10-minute
I
video
haven't
that's been
seen
reading
that.
the most bullshit explanations and like
Like,
the stupidest things.
I know it was because
I'll link the video.
Weak.
But my point is, Star Wars in general is not something that I like a lot because it's kind of boring. I think Empire, for example, is boring except for the last half hour. The last half hour is really good stuff, but everything I don't care. I don't get why it's so popular. It's the hero's
Well-
journey, whatever.
While we're
Anyway,
in the
that's
vein
the
of
Rush
picking-
album in a nutshell.
While we're in the vein of pissing off nerds, can I say that I haven't watched the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy?
Fine. I watched it once. I watched the Hobbit trilogy once. That's all I need.
I've only seen the first Hobbit film.
This is why I like The Last Jedi, because The Last Jedi likes to piss off fans a lot, and I love pissing off fans. I'll tell
I
you that.
really liked some of the world building in The Last Jedi, like where we discover where the blue milk comes from.
Is that there's the salt planet that's really cool that you think it's snow but it's salt because fuck you.
And that final battle, I actually really liked how, spoilers, Luke Skywalker died. He died a similar death to Yoda. Just by using up the last of his energy and just, I have completed
Tricks.
my purpose.
No one's ever really gone.
Yeah, he's going to come back as a Force Ghost. We know this.
I was hating Christensen, I'm sure. I just know Star Wars stuff because Star Wars is a cultural phenomenon that I have to know because I was in film school when it came back. Anyway, that's my rant about Star Wars. I could go on for hours. But The Last Jedi is great. A New Hope is cool. Everything else, I don't care.
And
For
I can't
Rush.
remember a single thing about the Rush album because it flowed in one ear and then just kind of went out the other.
It's
I'll tell you
lyrically
this.
dense.
I really enjoyed about the last 6 minutes of book 2. And, Getty starts singing in like a lower octave, and you know when he kind of calms down and he really gets into it. And then when it kind of goes into that acoustic part at the end, it's all really cool stuff. Like it hits really musically. When he goes back into his high octaves during that segment, it really nails it just for emotional impact. And there's, like I said, there's a good amount of musicianship going on throughout both of those songs. But
Oh, yeah.
And I think he says the word
I-
hemispheres once.
because it's
Yeah, there we go. I remember
because
one
book
thing.
2. So the story of these songs, they summarize it basically. Book 1 is about this explorer in a spaceship who wants to go into a black hole and find out what's happening, and he does. Book 2, he comes out of the black hole into Olympus and finds all the Greek gods, and there's a war between the right brain and the left brain. I forget. I think it's like Apollo and Dionysus or something like that. Where there's like the logical people and the artistic people, and so
Can I
the different
explain this a little
hemispheres
bit
of the
more?
brain and all that. And the guy comes in and is like, he's Cygnus. He's the god of balance, the god who's going to bring everybody together and unite them. That's the story.
Can I explain the story a little bit more in depth?
Please.
You have book 1 just about right. He flies into a black hole and gets, we think, killed by the black hole. In book 2, it starts off by describing a planet with people on it, and then Apollo shows up, and he's like, "Okay, I can show you how you can survive." And then, but the people aren't happy; they're just living. And so then Dionysus, like, "Hey, you just need to cut back and party, dudes. Like, just drink wine, let your cities go to shit." And so they do that, and then slowly there's factions forming of, "Oh, we need to survive," and, "Oh no, we just need to party, bro." And then that's when Cygnus comes through, the explorer who goes through the black hole, and he talks to the Greek gods while they're trying to figure out what the hell's going on with the planet, because it's divided physically. And it was like, okay, well, what if we try to balance? After recounting his story, and they name him the god of balance. And that's about
Went
it.
through a black hole, so you should make me a god, basically, right?
He fixed their problems, so they made him a god.
It's like the taco commercial with the little girl. Why not both?
That's exactly what it is.
Should call her a god now. She is
Oh,
Cygnus.
that's hilarious. Oh, that is my new headcanon.
I mean, like I said, I think it's a little light there in some places. It's a cool idea. I appreciate that they did that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not super my thing for whatever reason. Glad I listened to it though. I like songs that tell a story. I appreciate his name is Neil Peart, right?
Yes, Neil Peart. He'll get mad
I
if you call
appreciate
him
that he writes these lyrics and really goes into it, especially because he was like a replacement after the first album. He just kind of came in and made everything his in a way. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, they couldn't tour around Rush 1 because the original drummer, John Ritzy, had diabetes.
And other problems, I think, too.
Yeah, complications from
Something like that. And he couldn't tour, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which it sucks that they made him leave the band for that, but I get it, I guess. Or he just dropped out voluntarily, but
I don't know the entire story off the top of my head.
From what I've read, that's the general gist is he couldn't tour, so they replaced him.
Basically, yeah.
So going back to a lot of the legacies of Rush, I remember there was a video that the creators of South Park actually made for a tour. I think it was in the early noughties that Rush did.
Yeah, I actually saw that.
Yeah, it was before Tom Sawyer. They would play.
Yeah,
It would
I
be
actually had.
the
No,
South Park
Tom
kids.
Sawyer.
Yeah, it'd be Cartman, Kyle, and Stan. I think Kenny as well was in there. And they were just playing as a little band on there trying to do Tom Sawyer, and it was a little bit of a joke. That would happen just before Rush plays Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, and when I went to see Rush live, because I saw them live twice, one of the few bands I've had the pleasure of seeing, they played that video. It was pretty cool.
They did a version of "O Canada" for South Park, didn't they?
Probably.
What I read, but I can't remember if that's true or not.
That would be something to search up, I guess.
Yeah.
We have the internet.
It's really, I think it's cool that Rush was around for 50 years, 68 to 2018. That's an impressive record for a band.
Mm-hmm.
this is
I thought it
relatively
was 40 because
68 to
his last tour
2018.
was called R40.
I don't know if
Yeah,
they're
I
putting
mean-
out albums till then, but
And they put out the Cygnus EP in 2017, and then I think in January 2018 they were like, "Yeah, we're actually done."
Hmm.
Officially 2018, but really 2015. That's when Neil Peart left the band because he was
Yeah.
getting old and couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, and R40 was the last live. Excuse me.
So I think it's amazing how you look at all of the former members and the last lineup and everything, and only one of them is dead. John Rutsey.
Yeah, and he was the original drummer.
Mm.
They couldn't tour, so there you go.
And he died 11 years ago. Everyone else is still alive and healthy. Well,
I have the book that
Comparingly.
Geddy Lee put out a few years ago, or a year ago.
I also appreciate that a lot of their albums had a low song count because I think that's interesting to kind of play around with how many songs, how long are they, all that stuff.
Yeah, like Hemispheres had 4 songs.
Yeah, I think that's really cool, interesting stuff.
compared to the mighty track list that I've put out for with this album.
What is
Haven't I-
it, 20?
Yeah, 21 or something, maybe even.
Like 18, I thought.
Well, no, it might have been Wildflower, sorry, that had like 21. It's one of the Avalanche's ones did.
Oh, I know yours didn't go over 20. I know that for sure.
Yeah. No, that
18.
might be Wildflower then. Yeah, it's 18 on since I left you. I can't be fucked counting. Anyway, I mean, with the Cygnus one, again, I wish I could say more about it. I gave it a couple listens, but in the end, nothing stuck in my head, so there was nothing for me to really, that I really have much to talk about other than stuff about Russia. If it's not the most dragging on listen that I've ever had, but it is a bit harder to get into, just 2 songs that are both 10 minutes and 18 minutes as the lengths. It's alright.
Yeah, it's an interesting album for sure.
Like,
I was really interested
Collection
in
of
it.
songs.
Is there like a Rush acoustic album?
I don't think so.
The last minute of Book 2, I really, really liked of just Geddy and the acoustic guitar. And I was really curious if they did it anywhere else because it went together so well.
The acoustic is one of those things that Rush just does for like intros and stuff because later on in like the 80s they got real heavy into the synthesizers.
So I don't think we can do a best track and worst track of this one.
I might as well. Book 2 is the better track.
Yeah, I'd have to
Yeah.
agree.
Book 2 is the better track.
Interesting, has more different parts. Like a lot of different. It diversifies itself more than Book 1 does by far.
Mm-hmm. I will say though, fun fact about Book 1, it has the highest note that Geddy Lee has ever sung in the studio or live or anything. That's a B flat 5, which is
Yeah, it's pretty high.
it's well into like almost the soprano, like female soprano.
I was trying to listen for it. I didn't hear it. I'll listen to it again because I really wanted to hear it.
That's when he goes. It's when he's being sucked into the black hole.
And I'll listen
When
more
you get
carefully.
that good suck.
that could be a good meme.
Have we got anything else to
that's
say about the
Cygnus.
Rush one, or are we going to go to
I
AFI?
one thing I want to say, and that is that no matter what Geddy Lee was playing on, he sounds like himself, but goddamn did he sound good on a Rickenbacker bass. Just a little inside baseball.
He's a
Okay, I
talented
just can't.
musician playing bass and singing for sure.
Oh yeah, and later albums, and I think even on this album, he's playing bass pedals with his feet while playing bass and singing.
You know, Kiss is really good at their music too.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about AFI. Sweepies.
Played
don't
Pro
really-
Skater 3 once.
Yeah, I got wanted to just be. I got vibes of like being in second grade and just playing Tony Hawk's American Wasteland for like the third time, and just drinking Mountain Dew and thinking I was edgy listening to punk rock.
Let me tell the story real quick of how I got into AFI was through a podcast I listened to in college called A Fire Inside Out, hosted by Ben Hansen and Jeff Cork, two really cool guys who just go through with AFI's entire discography, like album by album, just dissect each song. It's really cool, and I got into their work that way. And just because I started listening to it, that's when I realized, oh, The Boy Who Destroyed the World is that song on Tony Hawk 3 that I really like. And so ever since then, this is what I've seen. These two EPs are generally what I see as AFI at their best, at least the part that I like of them. Because kind of like Rush, they changed their sound up a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It started out as a hardcore punk band, and now they've moved into like a more pop punk, melodic kind of thing.
They sold out.
And you could say that, sure. We can look at that later, I guess.
I'm just making the obvious joke.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think that's, some people really think that, and I can understand why they would think that, because they've definitely, like these two EPs are very garage sounding.
They are.
They're kind they're
Lo-fi,
a little rough. They're vibey.
Some aggressive bass tone on. I'm like, oh my god, I was in love with the bass tone. I think it's just a Fender Precision played with a pick through an old Ampeg distortion with Rotosound steel string.
I love how you can tell that just by hearing, like, not even knowing. That's really cool.
Well, it's like each pickup has like its own distinctive like sound, and a P bass is just really chunky and really up there. I had a little extra high end sparkle, so I'm like, oh, it's probably steel strings, and just the whole like it's an overdriven Ampeg. Once you hear that, you hear it everywhere.
Okay. So the thing too about these two EPs is that they came out a year apart, 98 and 99. And in between them was their album Black Sails in the Sunset and the EP that went along with that as well. And that was probably the album where they really started to get a lot of attention. And so these two EPs are kind of sandwiched on the sandwich in between that. And, I think you could really tell a difference, like just how their songs evolved in that year. And by themselves, I think they actually make up a pretty good album if you squish them together. Like, there's definitely a part 1 and a part 2, but they follow a general theme of like emo, horror, punk, if that makes sense. Like going from just the early stuff of like Overexposure and 3.5, which I don't think are very memorable songs, but they get the point across, And then, like, the thing about A Fire Inside EP, too, it's kind of a single. And then they just stuck a couple covers on there to make it more of an EP. And, like, All Hallows EP, which is my favorite EP of theirs, like, my favorite album probably of theirs, is a really full EP of, like, meatier songs. One cover, but definitely meatier songs that are more interesting. You can dive better into.
I mean, I'm a weak fuck. I probably think "Sing the Sorrow" is still their best out of their discography. Because I grew up as well in AFI. Everyone who played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 probably also grew up in a little AFI as well. I mean, I was an angsty kid. Miss Murderers and Guitar Hero 3. What do you think was going to happen? But despite me preferring "Sing the Sorrow," these are two completely different sounding EPs from that. Whilst that album is a lot more poppy, this is a lot more just straight up a horror punk sound.
Yeah.
The lyrics, from what I can make out of them, are still very much like emo. Like, they're very emotional. Do I feel this way? You know, kind of just focusing on the self and emotions. The Boy Who Destroyed the World is a really interesting song, just because I think like it fits, but there's something about it that feels very different from the rest of the EP. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more
like
punky. It's a lot more punky than the other ones. The other ones have a lot more of that horror sound on there. And whilst The Boy Who Destroyed the World does fit within the All Hallows EP, it is not as scary sounding as everything else on there is.
That might be what it is. I don't know. It just sounds, maybe because I've equated it out with Tony Hawk outside of this, that it just sounds like a whole different thing to me. That just kind of like it just sets it apart.
Plus, I was talking with Trix, I think, earlier on this Discord. We were saying about the album art on here is 100% ruined by that fucking cat.
Oh God, it is. And also, I'd just like to say I was right about everything on his bass tone except for the strings. He uses nickel rounds.
I don't see anything but a cat.
I think you had to keep scrolling up.
Yeah, I was.
When I was sick, maybe.
Yeah, it was before the food talk, the drop bear.
Keep talking. I'm gonna look for it real quick.
I'm scrolling up too.
Yeah. And you were talking about the covers on the A Fire Inside EP. And whilst, sometimes people do just bands pad out EPs with covers, I mean, that Hanging Garden cover is fucking great.
It is. It's super great.
I found it. I'm posting just a screenshot in the Discord.
Be easier, thank you.
Like,
it was like one comment.
It's one of those ones where it's, even if you haven't heard the original, you don't need the context of the original, because I haven't heard the original Hanging Garden. I've never been much into The Cure.
Never have I.
But it's great to listen to.
Davey Havok's voice is really makes it interesting. Is kind of interesting because I'm almost gonna say a shame, because I don't think the Misfits covers are as good, because they just sound like Misfits covers. Like, it's just the song again, whereas the Hanging Garden elevates that song to something else.
And I don't like hearing a Misfits cover unless Gerard Ray's doing it on Tony Hawk.
Apparently, there's a story that Davey Havok was offered to be the lead singer of the Misfits, and he turned it down. I don't know.
On the topic of covers,
yeah,
I want to bring it back around to Rush for a sec, because on the Farewell to Kings 40th anniversary, there's a horrible fucking cover by Dream Theater of Xanadu.
Oh, God. Hi, I only listen to Dream Theater.
The singer just cannot sing. Oh God, he's so nasally. In like the worst possible way. And also there's a polka cover of Closer to the Heart by the Bare Naked Ladies.
Okay, but that one sounds fun. That one sounds fun.
It is pretty fun.
Have you listened to the Total Immortal cover by Offspring that I posted?
I have not.
Nah, I haven't been there. We only posted it 2 hours ago.
Listen to it real quick. Just tell me quick reactions.
I can't, because otherwise it'll record onto the podcast, and I'm not getting in that copyright strike.
I will do it live.
Here's the thing. AFI was on Nitro Records, which was the Offspring's record label at the time. So it's weird that they did this, I feel like.
I mean, bands cover label mates' songs all the time.
Like, for a movie specifically? Like, they couldn't just license the original version from the movie? It was for Me, Myself, and Irene, the Jim Carrey movie.
I mean, doing it for a movie is a lot weirder, but sometimes they just think it will fit well, or...
Is it because the Offspring is better known than AFI at
Yeah,
the
I
time?
think
I
I
get
think
that.
I think it's because the Offspring's more better known than AFI. So if you go, oh, we have a AFI song in here, people
Who
are
the
like,
fuck are there?
but you go, there's an Offspring. Wait, what year did Me, Myself, and Irene come out?
1000.
2000. So yeah, Offspring would have still been just off of their hit. I'm Pretty Fly for a White Guy because that came out in '98, I believe, if I'm remembering it properly. And then next year, I think they had a couple other songs that were minor hits. So Offspring was still fresh in everyone's head. Whilst AFI, I believe, did not even have a real like they were starting to break out with these EPs and albums, but especially in Australia, I don't think they had a hit until Girls Like Grey.
The Total Immortal was their first official single, which I think is weird because Boy Destroyed the World definitely deserves to be the better known song, to me at least.
I mean, it is the better known song.
Uh, if you know the fans, like Total Immortal is like one of the most requested songs at concerts. It is one of their most signature songs especially from this era. Boy Destroyed the World does not get nearly the credit it deserves.
I don't
You
think
listen to it, Trix?
Yeah, I listened to it. I'm gonna just listen to the original AFI one to jog my memory.
All right.
Apologies.
What
The
is? I
initial
want.
thought I heard when I heard the Offspring cover is like, what Green Day song is this?
Yeah, this is also something we should talk about because All Hallows is on Adeline, which is Green Day's record label, and
And I had
going
the exact thought when I listened to the AFI one the first time.
going forward, there's a lot of interaction between Green Day and AFI. Like when they reinvent their sound, like I think they were really influenced by like American Idiot and everything Green Day was doing by that point. Like when they get to December Underground with Miss Murder and everything, and then like you have stuff like Davey Havoc playing in American Idiot on Broadway, playing the Billy Joe Armstrong role of St. Jimmy. So there's definitely a connection there between AFI and Davey Havoc. Really likes Green Day. That really shines through.
They just get me.
It's not a phase, Mom.
Get me so much that I'm going to put them into my own almost 30-year-old band now.
Basket Case saved my life.
Oh man, I was listening to like some sort of a side note just about Green Day. I was listening to some new Green Day. I think it was off the Trail.
Oh god, no, you've. I already know.
I think I think it was like not. Like, hey little kid, there's a boy. I thought this was the lyrics. I don't remember the name of the song. Is it Nuclear Kid?
I don't know. I haven't. I had a
Both of
pretty
those
big.
albums.
I haven't actually listened to the Ondas Tres one. I had a friend who was really into Green Day. Like he still, I think he still is. Hopeful for every new Green Day song or single, everything. And he would always say when talking about Green Day albums, he would always put that Uno Dos Tres trilogy, and he would just go, "Yeah, that was some of the worst shit I've ever heard."
But there was but one of these Green Day songs is I was playing it on Rocksmith, and I should say I used to be a pretty big Green Day fan. Like the bass I'm currently holding in my hands now has the body from the Mike Dirnt signature.
Give it a
Precision
strum.
bass.
There we go.
Yeah. Now we're a music podcast.
Yes, and but when I first played this song, I'm like, this is just slowed down Basket Case, and while I played the bass part just a little bit faster, and it's the exact same as Basket Case, just more shitty. They're ripping themselves off.
Can they sue themselves?
Well, in some cases that has happened about songs. Like I forget the exact thing, but like a songwriter from that was in one band wrote this one song and they copied themselves basically and kind of like stole a riff or a
Uh,
chord progression or something.
yeah, no, no, I forget what the band was. Someone will probably remind me one day. My dad, who can just say it from heart, where they were on a label and they recorded a song and then they swapped labels eventually and they wrote another song that was similar to that. However, they didn't have the
Yeah,
rights to that song anymore because it was on their former label, so the label sued
yeah,
them.
but it ended up being like singer was suing singer. That's how it looked like on the thing.
Yeah,
Oh, it states what you were doing, the Total
yeah,
Immortal and all that.
yeah. Well, the one that we've just kind of ignored is "Fall Children."
Which is also a really good song.
Mm.
Really like that a lot. Just the chorusy, like stuff. I don't know. I really I go nuts for that shit. It's really gets me in the mood for Halloween.
Yeah, it's a great opener to this EP. It kind of just kicks in, doesn't stop, and it does have like this kind of both Halloween and I think it's Fall Children does it as well. Kind of ends with a bit of like this eerie atmosphere to it.
Yeah.
I know Halloween does that for like a minute.
That the Halloween stuff I do not like. Get that shit out of there.
I don't mind it actually. I don't think. I
I
mean,
don't know.
it's not the best off the EP, obviously, but it's
It's just because the atmospheric stuff is almost longer than the song itself.
oh yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. And it's I was doing a joke about car seat headrest. It's the one thing that he should have just he changed the monologue to Nervous Young and Humans on his last record, and no one wanted him to change it. Just get rid of that fucking monologue. Why is it there? It lasts for 3 minutes. The song goes for 2.5. Why?
So, quick note: A Fire Inside EP is the one that's on Adeline Records. All Hallows is on Nitro. Anyway, other things. All Hallows is the first time that the current lineup of the band was the current lineup of the band. You got like Hunter Bergen on bass, who is the bassist sometimes for Tegan and Sarah, and other acts like that. But this
And
is like his main
again,
gig.
P-bass with brown lawns, the pick through an Ampeg.
The thing about AFI too, especially Davey Havoc, is that Davey is a very interesting character. He is Mr. Vegan. He is Mr. Straight Edge, which are not necessarily bad things, but there's like that.
Havoc is an outspoken advocate of the straight edge lifestyle and veganism.
PETA 2 voted him world's sexiest vegetarian in 2007.
For those who don't know,
I
it's a
have no
Wikipedia one
respect.
because I didn't know what the fuck straight edge meant. It's a subculture of hardcore punk where adherents refrain from using alcohol, tobacco, and other recreational drugs.
Oh, so basically, kind of the
Oh
stuff
god, no,
that
no,
makes punk punk.
this is the bad part. This extends from engaging in promiscuous sex. Come on, come
Come on,
on,
come on,
be
Kanye.
cool. Yes, don't have premarital sex while recording my album. Thanks.
But the funny thing is,
Thanks,
this is actually really funny. So Davey is also an author, and I read his first book, Pop Kids. You want to know what it's about?
Kids having sex?
Yes. It is about a bunch of, film school fucks who aren't even in film school. They're still in high school. They name themselves after the big directors of the time. And they just have orgies. That's all they do. Got names like Score, because Scorsese. Just drinking on like San Pellegrinos and just having orgies. And it was a lot to read. A lot. you know, AFI puts out some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
They're considered one of the most influential punk bands of all time, by some people at least.
Oh, like if I look under my bed where all these clothes that I haven't touched in 5 years are, I probably have the AFI jumper I had from back when I was in like 6th grade.
The jumper.
Yeah, it was a hoodie I had.
Okay.
If
I
I
was
find,
picturing like a onesie.
yeah, it's my AFI onesie. It's nothing but black.
Either a onesie or like one of those overall type things. I wasn't sure.
Nah, it was just a hoodie.
Okay.
Gotta go.
An
If I
AFI romper.
find it, I'll put the picture up.
An AFI romper.
Yeah, it would be
Okay, that's what I'm the word I think of. Romper.
it would be the album art for this
Okay.
podcast if I found the hoodie.
Excellent. Also, AFI I saw live. They're one of the few bands I've seen live, and they're pretty good. Davy's voice has
I've only
definitely changed
I've only seen 3
since.
bands live. Just a side note: one of them was Rush, one of them was Green Day, and the other one was Joe Bonamassa.
Man, you're
I've seen
weak.
Crystal Castles. I've seen AFI, and I saw one of the people from Styx because they live near me and can do local festivals.
I had a chance to see John Anderson of Yes, and apparently he was high as a kite. Well, I almost got to see um what's prog band?
Is this?
No, other one, the 21st Century Schizoid band.
King Crimson.
Yeah, I almost got to see Robert Fripp.
Let me just do mine in order here. All right. Stone Temple Pilots with Grinspoon supporting was the first one I saw. Then I went to a Kings of Leon concert primarily because my mum had 2 tickets for it, and I saw Band of Horses was supporting. Then, here we go. You ready for the angstiest concert? Your boy went to a System of a Down concert.
Yeah, boy.
Those are great though, because you have like the Armenians in the front row just going crazy as fuck.
I need to cover System of a Down one day.
Probably do a Toxicity or a Hypnotize. Then what I go to, I think I didn't see a concert for a couple of years, and then I went to Foo Fighters that had Rise Against supporting, and Rise Against, like we're talking about Misfits covers here. Rise Against actually brought Gerard Way on and did the Misfits cover of I'm doing the cover of the Misfits song Astro Zombies. So that was the true Tony Hawk's moment there. I've seen King Gizzard a couple times. Hockey Dad. I've seen Sticky Fingers. Fuck, who else have I seen? I've seen Sapphire. I don't think I'm ever going to cover Sapphire here. Not interesting enough, really. Oh, and Van Soho.
Mm.
That's on the
Something
top.
funny.
That's on the top of my head. Yep.
So in the '90s, I guess AFI had they did a single, or a song with a band called Heckle, and they covered Astro Zombies as well.
I mean, Astro Zombies is the funnest Misfits song to cover.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. I don't think I've knowingly listened to Misfits, like a legit Misfits song, other than these covers.
Yeah, pretty much actually.
I've not listened to much Misfits, honestly.
I've really only listened to Astro Zombies. I'll be honest.
Another person I've seen in concert was Buddy Guy, one of the last remaining blues legends, because he's in Chicago, and he plays so hard
blues
throughout his concert that he ends the concert in a wheelchair.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say I actually saw Foles live.
It's cool.
Yeah, I'm literally wearing the Foles shirt right now. How did I forget that? I'm a dumb shit.
Speaking of people named Buddy, this is a complete tangent. I have a friend that looks like Buddy Holly had a love child with Napoleon Dynamite.
All right, I could see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
let me see if I have the photo of them still.
Whilst just searching that up, with the Fire Inside EPs and the All Hallows, I mean, I pretty much said all I can say about them. It's some really good horror punk. It only lasts in total for like 19 minutes for both EPs.
They're not
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, they're not long, but they're fun as hell.
I kind of wish they released them as an album.
Mm.
I think that'd be really
Yeah.
fun.
Any more final thoughts, or should we go into favorites and least favorites here?
Is it worth covering Demonomania like at all? Like as a musician, is it worth covering? Because it's like not even a minute long.
Nah.
Nah.
Why would they do that, you think? Just to fill out the EP?
Sometimes it's just a little fun to do.
Yeah,
Yes.
like I could totally see
It
doing
didn't
something
feel.
with that, with
Nothing
that
felt
band,
like
right?
filler here, except maybe
Right.
that 1 minute of atmospheric horror.
Yeah.
And nothing felt like filler. I'm just curious. Like, to me, it seems like they were just padding out the EP a bit, because if you cut Demonomania, it's basically a single.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Let's go in the favorites, least favorites.
I'd say my favorite, because I'll do it based off each EP, because I'm treating this like two different EPs, because that's what it fucking is.
Yeah.
And I would say that my favorite of the EP, the All Hallows EP, would still have to be Boy Who Destroyed the World. I mean, the other two that I won't mention are pretty close up to that. But Boy Who Destroyed the World is just so... Right, there's enough memories of that just pushes it higher. And Halloween does have to be the least favorite because, yeah, that bit of atmosphere, whilst it's cool, does drone on a bit. I would say
That was
with...
the only photo that happened.
I would say that my favorite of the Fire Inside EP was the Hanging Garden. That cover, I thought that was great. Yeah, it kind of surprised me with how much I enjoyed that one. And yeah, Demonomania probably the least favorite because it's kind of just there, but doesn't really feel like filler. Tricks.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like again, the rip and bass on it, particularly on whatever track 2 of AFI was, with All Fire Inside.
Overexposure.
Yeah, I think it was that. It just started off with a rip and bass. I thoroughly enjoyed that.
Favorites or least favorites?
Demonomania was just short. Again, why they did it, why did they put it on? But like I can understand why they put it on, but just wasn't for me.
Anything else?
All I really got to say about it.
Okay. For me, I'm kind of in agreement with Riddle in here. Boy Destroyed the World is a clear favorite. I still really like Fall Children, though. That's a really close second. And the Halloween cover, I'm just going to put last, even though it's still pretty good, just because of that atmospheric shit. And then on AFI EP, the Hanging Garden cover is really cool. But I don't know. I'm tempted to put Demonomania as my least favorite, but there's something about like 3.5 and Overexposure as well that are just not very memorable. Like, they're cool songs, but the lyrics, you kind of have to look at the lyrics to understand them, and B, like, they're on an EP. They're not the best AFI songs out there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think overall, All Hallows EP is just the superior EP. A Fire Inside is good, but it's fine, you know.
And now we go on to my favorite part of the podcast, where we talk about my choices, which are always the best choices. Don't
You're
mention
always trying to
Tism.
impress us.
Don't mention Tism. Don't mention Tism. Don't mention Tism.
You're always trying to impress us. That's what I'm getting here.
What? No. Hides picture of Dominic.
Look how great Australian music is. We got Avalanches. We got Tism. We've got Land of Pleasure. got the Middle East. I get it, man. You want to promote Australian music. I appreciate that. And you know what? Since I Left You is a really fucking good album. Again,
Flight 22 was off the
you've done it
Honolulu.
again.
Flight 22 was off the Honolulu. Flight 22 was off the Honolulu. I got 30 more minutes of this.
Okay, so I have actually heard this album before, like in its entirety before even doing this, and I forgot I had listened to it. It's my mother's ex-boyfriend was obsessed with this album,
Like, okay.
and so like I've heard it through its entirety a few times. So like just it felt familiar.
This is probably one of the biggest albums in Australian music history. Just its legacy is undeniable. I talked a bit on this Discord. Hopefully you two took a bit of a read of that. It was pretty much the state of the music scene in Australia before Since I Left You it came out and what it is now. Obviously, Since I Left You is not the only album to have created the music scene that we had. So, for those who aren't so familiar with the Australian music scene, and I'm going to assume that is going to be a lot of people outside of Australia, from pretty much the 70s till late 90s, the main genres that would be performed by Australian artists were either pop to get onto the radio, and that was still very, very little, or the big one was actually a genre we call pub rock, which is not quite punk, but it is a lot more punky kind of classic rock sound. You
Kind
have
of like AC/DC.
yeah, AC/DC is probably the biggest pub rock band.
I'd say they're probably the most recognizable band.
Well, because I was at a record store the other day, and I was there with my dad and my brother, and my dad and the guy who was running the record store were pretty much doing a conversation about how a lot of these records have changed and why they're so expensive and everything. And people outside of Australia probably don't realize a lot about AC/DC's discography that exists. Like how some of the album art will change, or even how their debut doesn't exist outside of Australia.
There's an Angry Video Game Nerd episode about it.
And he was talking about the record TNT, which, because even though vinyl pressings are rare in Australia and everything, like there's only a couple that even exist in our country, it only exists in Australia. So a first pressing of it, even if it's only in just good condition, $700. It's incredibly rare. And that's pretty much what our music scene was going towards this album. We didn't have any soul, we didn't have any like R&B. Hip hop was hardly a thing. Yet this album incorporates a lot of that. The Avalanches would literally just buy milk crates full of records, and they would just use the smallest parts of them and create what is somewhat unrecognizable. And you have songs in there like Frontier Psychiatrist, which sounds completely like a hip hop song. You have Live at Domino's, which sounds incredibly it's just a full on dance song. Even the title track, the opener, Since I Left You, has that kind of soul singer at the start of it. And these are all things that just were never really big in Australia. And then this album comes out, and it's a massive success. Not only in Australia, internationally. And we now have a pretty thriving hip hop genre. We more refer to it as Aussie hip hop because we aren't really as experimental as a lot of the US rappers are these days. We are incredibly sample based though in our choruses, especially at the start of the genre. Our biggest song that was pretty much the breakout of the genre was by a band called Hilltop Hoods, and the song "The Nosebleed Section," which used a portion of the song, I think it's called "The Front Row," by Melanie Sundang. And that's what our hip hop genre started off as. It was be the choruses would just be a huge sample, and everything else there would pretty much be no instrumentation. It would be two rappers and one DJ who has found a sample to use.
That's interesting. I mean, like, pop kind of grew up here, so you kind of saw the beginnings of it back in like the 70s and all that. So to see how it pops up in other places is definitely interesting.
Well, again, because towards the late of the last century, Australia was still quite a racist place. You know, we didn't even say sorry, like an official apology to our Indigenous people until 10 years ago. We still got a long way to go when it comes to everything, but around
has America apologized to our indigenous population? Not to get off topic.
probably not, but
Not in the way we should, if ever.
Yeah.
when it comes to the music scene, though, again, a lot of those black artists and those genres that were more referred to as like kind of more black dominated would just never hit in Australia. So we have like no blues collection, no soul collection, no reggae collections. So there have been entire genres here that just do not exist.
Bands that now at least try to kind of fill in the void, kind of, right?
Well, no,
Again,
again,
you had like
we had Sticky Fingers last time, where that had a lot more, somewhat of a reggae influence to it.
that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like they kind of came in and kind of put, an Australian take on reggae, for example. Oh, from what I've gathered, I think the last 20 years, now that the world is more connected and Australians can kind of just kind of see what music is out there as quickly as anybody else can. It's kind of trying to fill in the void, fill in the gap, kind of catch up with it. That's just what I've seen, at least from this show, especially.
And that's why an album like Since I Left You is so important in our music history. Because, just frankly, nothing like it had ever come out at all. And now you don't only just have bands in Australia that use the Avalanches as an influence, you have bands all over the world. And we ended up having to wait 16 years until Avalanches would finally put out a second. They had a lot of lineup changes and everything as well. I think they're now literally just a trio.
I think there were only like two main people, and then
Yeah.
like a bunch of people that kind of just float around.
It's Robbie
that's what I
Chatter
heard
and
too.
someone else. I need to search
And
that.
De Blasi.
Yeah, De Blasi, that was the other one. Tony De Blasi, I think.
They're the only two that have been there since the beginning. Everyone else has kind of gone off on their own and do whatever.
And it did actually surprise me when we were trying to, at the start of this week, when you showed me that Since I Left You was not actually available on Spotify in international countries. Because it's available, like, all the time here in Australia.
You can buy it on iTunes, but then you have to buy the album, and that's probably like an altered album, kind of like the Gautier thing.
Well, yeah, because the
you
one
can't
that
buy it
I
on Google
gave,
Play Music.
the one that I gave you to was an altered version of the album. It was the international version. The one on Spotify in Australia is the Australian version.
Okay.
So with stuff like, you'll notice in Frontier Psychiatrist, the one of the lines to the "I'm gonna kill you, let's have a duel," you'll notice a difference in the voices used for those. If you see the music video and listen to it. Listen to the song without the video.
Got it mixed up. I thought you gave us the original, and then the video was the international version.
No,
But okay.
no. The international version was because that's just the files I have. It's just the international.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know why I had those as the files, but I think it's because of a lot of re-releases that they did. It's all international version.
Probably want it to be the standard now anyway, because this is, from what I read, this is the kind of project where they were just doing it to do it. They didn't think it'd be a big thing at all.
Well, there's
And
so
so they
much.
didn't even really keep track of everything.
I like looking at a lot of the history of how they thought thought this album was going to pan out. How they originally thought that like their original concept was it was about a guy chasing a girl all around the world, but she's always one step ahead, just that one boat away or one country away. And then they realized that was going to be too hard. And I still think this is an album that is and incorporates music throughout the whole world.
Absolutely, for sure. Yes.
So you can still see kind of remnants of that idea in there.
I mean, it's like it's like they had that idea and then they kind of just brought it down a few notches. So you can still read into it if you'd like, but it's not, important. It's not the point of this. An hour plus long just string of music that can be done from beginning to end with no breaks, or you can just take each song out and listen to it on its own and it'll sound, perfectly fine from beginning to end with no noticeable, cutoffs or anything.
Well,
that is, I think, the most magical part of it.
There are a couple songs that you will notice a bit of a cutoff, that they are kind of in between songs, like "Stay Another Season." Pablo's Cruise is definitely a big in between song. But yeah, there are also songs like "Flight Tonight," "Electricity," "Frontier Psychiatrist," which is obviously like "Frontier Psychiatrist" is the song off this album.
It's the ones that I listened to independently of the album. I just fit perfectly together. I guess I didn't listen to all of them separately, but yeah. Frontier Psychiatry is a really good one.
Frontier Psychiatrist is just off the walls of a song. It starts off with the sample of "Is Dexter Ill? Is Dexter Ill today?" And it starts off with like this whole
John Waters movie. It's from the John Waters movie Polyester, of all places. Like, I'm pretty sure that's Divine's voice.
Yeah, I believe you're correct on there. There's for anyone who wants to see a lot of the samples on here, there is this bandstand video that goes for like 35 minutes, where the person running that account tries to get as much samples and their origins as possible, and it is worth watching because, again, this is an album that is 100% samples.
I guarantee you that there's a James Jamerson sample on that. We'll go through all of the samples eventually.
Well, not even Avalanches can remember all of their samples because they didn't keep a track of it. They didn't think that this was going to have any airplay whatsoever. And lo and behold, being a kid in the noughties, and anytime any like Max or I think V is the other music channel on TV were playing, this music video for Frontier Psychiatrist is always playing.
Like, it's talked about that, okay, they sampled all these songs, and it's like 3,500 different samples. But, like, they don't really go into the fact that they sample movies and, like, golf things and, like, whatever they could find. It's not just songs, necessarily. It's whatever. I think that is the most interesting part of it, is that it's like they didn't really have a limit. They just kind of took what they could find that they could sample, and they fit it together in a way that you can maybe sometimes recognize it, but it just it does what sampling should do, in that it makes it into something new.
It's an album.
I'd like to give us.
Yeah, you go.
I'd like to give like a somewhat modern example of this, if that's all right. There's a music YouTuber who's fairly well known, Andrew Hong. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but he
sounds
the Pink Fluffy Unicorn song.
Yeah.
The Pink Fluffy Unicorns Dancing on Rainbows. That's like his most famous thing.
Yeah.
But he does videos all the time of him just sampling random shit and making music out of it.
On the YouTube front, then, Red Letter Media got really famous for kind of using this kind of sampling when they did their, hour-plus long Star Wars prequel reviews, like the Mr. Plinkett series, where they would throw in scenes from the movies and scenes from the behind the scenes videos that would like portray George Lucas as kind of a bumbling artist who didn't really understand what he was doing, and they'd use the scenes to alter their meaning to fit what they're trying to say about the movies themselves, which was kind of revolutionary at the time, 10 plus years ago, and like the way films were criticized. And I don't know if they ever listened to this album, but it's kind of the same principle, at least.
Yeah.
Just trying to think what's the next thing to segue into here.
How about their names? Because like AFI, who AFI can mean a bunch of different things. The Avalanches wasn't really their first name; they just kind of came up with it because they found a record called "Ski Surfing with the Avalanches" from like the '60s.
Which I believe that's in the Frontier Psychiatrist music video.
Yeah. They roll it out on stage, a giant record.
Avalanche is above, business continues below.
So that their name itself is basically a sample. I think it's really cool. What would you want to say next?
I mean, we haven't talked too much about individual songs besides Frontier Psychiatrist, but technically live at Domino's, because the amount of time I've gone, Flight 22 was off to Honolulu, Flight 22 was off to Honolulu, which is like the funnest start to any song off this album.
It is. How about, I think it was Tonight. Tonight is the one I think that's like kind of cut up, isn't it?
Yeah, tonight might have to last me all my life, or as it's titled on yours, just Tonight, but it's got both titles. Yeah, and that's the one where it's kind of like loud and cruising, but it gets really soft as the woman starts singing on it.
It kind of throws in some samples and then it just brings them out, and it throws in another one, it brings it out, if I'm remembering correctly. It kind of runs through a couple different samples before going into the real thing. And I'm pretty sure this is one where it just kind of has like a start and stop kind of construction for a lot of its samples, where it's not like a lot of the other songs are kind of seamless and it kind of all flows. And I think this is the one that's very different from that. One that you kind of notice it more. You kind of notice the creation of how they do this stuff more. And I actually ended up really liking that one because it is different. I don't know, it really kind of showed how the sausage is made in a way, and made me appreciate the way these samples can fit together, especially when you kind of hear them sequenced a little more obviously, not just filtered together into a kind of a symphony of sound. It's also one that's really jazzy and kind of bossa nova influenced too, and I really like that.
One of my favorite kind of like, it's a real short moment of the album, is the song Avalanche Rock, where
it's a cool one. Yeah,
that's the kind of just like fun. That's how you have a bit of fun, of a kind of like little joke track in there without it feeling like filler or just overextending its welcome. It's just 25 seconds of going Avalanche Rock, Avalanche Rock, but it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's fun.
Yeah, on the one end you have Demonomania, the other end you have Avalanche Rock.
Well, it is there to kind of help the flow between Two Hearts and 3/4 Time and Flight Tonight, which Flight Tonight is also just, that's one of the more hip hop influenced songs off this album.
Yeah.
Like there's no rapping on this album. If you want the rapping, you go to Wildflower, where they actually got artists on there to create original content on there. So like you have Danny Brown and MF Doom on Frankie Sinatra and stuff like that. I think it's Tori Ray Murray who's on If I Was a Folk Star, but that's on Wildflower. This one, again, there's no rapping, but there is hip hop. There's that
kind of rapping. Like it's not maybe originally meant to be, but it kind of, they fit it in to be.
Well, when it comes to the hip hop scene in Australia as well, whilst we do have a lot of rappers, we also do have quite a lot of instrumental hip hop. Like if you listen to early Flume, that's what you would consider to be instrumental hip hop. Stuff like Sleepless and Holding On, even though Holding On does have some voices, it is a lot more of a hip hop sound. You have artists like Hermitude as well. And again, Avalanches do have that more kind of instrumental side of hip hop than the whole rapping side of it.
Ito, is that kind of named after their former band member? Do you know?
I do not actually know. I will have to search that up.
Because
Search it up.
Manabu Ito was kind of in it, and he was also in their previous project, Alarm 115. He
Quite
had gotten
possibly.
like deported or something.
Quite possibly.
It's a shame though, because I think that might be the weakest track on the album, because like parts of that song gets really mellow and kind of simple,
Mm.
and then there's a sound in there that goes real low. I don't know if it's like a didgeridoo or something, but when it gets in there, it changes the song, and it gets really good again. And I really like kind of like the latter part of that song. I don't know everything about it. My note here is that it's a very mouth song. There's a lot of mouth sounds. I don't know if you can help fill in the blanks a little bit.
I mean, yeah, it is I don't think that one does continue on from the ending of Frontier Psychiatrist, probably just a little bit too long. I would agree actually that Ito is probably the weakest track off here, but I mean, it's still got its place in there because everything flows perfectly. So, and this is no exception. There's no exception ever to that in this album. But yeah, I can see all the points that you got there. There's also a lot of other tracks that I haven't really gone into, which are just beautiful tracks. Radio and Since I Left You were both, I believe, in 2001. They became both radio hits in Australia after Frontier Psychiatrist in 2000. Since I Left You is a beautiful opener. It starts off that kind of acoustic guitars, real chill, and then slowly moving into that kind of whole dance track. And it is at actually a lower volume than the rest of this album is, because it sounds a little fuzzy, and that's the point. As in the album kind of just kicks in, and suddenly it's a lot more cleaner. It starts to kind of vibe a lot more.
I think it's because the main sample, the Since I Left You singing part of it, that is a really kind of rougher sound. Like maybe the record of it wasn't that great or something.
That's quite possible.
I think that song is like the very perfect like kind of proof of concept of what they're doing, of like kind of combining all these different samples and how they can make it work. And you can tell they're samples. Like you can tell that Since I Left You line is a sample from something, but it's kind of like, see, this can work.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what was it sampling from, because there's just another page. It is a sample of of Main Attractions, the band, their song Every Day.
60s, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, 68. Or on Wildflower, there's a song called Subways, and that is they found this random girl's, like she was like 14 at the time's EP from like the 70s.
Oh, okay, sure.
And they used that as the main sample for that.
Could it be like the Shags?
Possibly.
Because like they're like their album. They have one album they put out, and it's basically like the room for musicians. Like it's such a terrible album. People love it, and like people like Frank Zappa and stuff got inspiration from it.
Ritalin, you talk a lot about how you're always appreciative of like Australian bands trying to elevate smaller acts, right? Like featuring them, and like kind of promoting them on their own.
Yeah.
And this isn't just Australian. This is music from around the world, but this is kind of the ultimate example, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if there's much Australian samples that they even use in this. I think the most famous sample is actually at the start of Stay Another Season, where I believe
It's
it's
the Madonna holiday
yeah,
song.
yeah, Madonna's Holiday.
Like a lot of these, like the stories, a lot of these records are just stuff that became obscure, and so they just kind of, or stuff that was bad. I think was kind of the inclination there of like some of the stuff they didn't really like, or was obscure, and they just kind of put it in there for just to see what would happen.
Well, when it comes to making music, it doesn't matter. Like with samples, it doesn't matter how good the original song was, as long as
No,
the
it
sounds
doesn't
that
at
you
all.
have work well with the next song. And like,
The fact that they were able
if you looked at a lot of the songs that they use, you probably find some absolute fucking trash out there. But
sure,
it
but I think
works
it makes
perfectly
it
on this album.
interesting.
And yes, this is kind of the ultimate example. I would have to get the CD out. It's in my brother's room for since I left here, and get the sleeve out, which has the whole production credits and everything, which is it's insane. Just how much you have to credit for this, but like
Didn't
obviously,
you post it in the Discord?
yeah, I've posted an image, but it wasn't like a pitch. I didn't take the screenshot of someone else's.
Like looking into like Frontier Psychiatrists, for example, they introduced me to the Canadian comedy duo Wayne and Schuster, for example, which was the boy needs therapy lines and all that stuff, and they were just like this long running Canadian comedy team that were on like the Ed Sullivan Show and stuff, and I never knew about them, and so to have that kind of like jumping off line of like, hey, this line in this song that you really like, this is what it's from, and you can read into all that as much as you like. I like that.
So, because I don't think there's too much more left to say about this other than what we already have. For those who haven't ever listened to the full of Since I Left You, it's incredible start to finish.
Yes,
It's
good.
a big implore to listen to this. I'll say where I put it in the rankings after this, after we're done here. But this has so much legacy in the Australian music scene. It's something that I haven't always listened to the full since I was a kid, but songs off here have always been songs that I've known since I was at a young age, because they would always get played in Australia. I don't know how much radio airplay they would have gotten overseas. I'm not going to pretend like I know that.
I mean, I've heard of the Avalanches for sure, but I've never listened to any of it before.
They've always been big in the indie scene in other countries.
I'm pretty sure this is the band that was introduced to me as like they had so many samples that they couldn't release it properly or something like that, which is not true, but
Well,
maybe at least internationally.
technically it is, because internationally they had to swap some of the samples around. I think they had to actually record some stuff. I'm not too sure about that. Anyway, I'll let you two go into least favorites and best favorites before I go into mine.
Do you want to go?
Well, I guess I'll start. If I'm gonna be honest, I can't really pick out a least favorite moment of the album, because it all just kind of blended together in like a good way. But I will say, like, the opening track just draws you in so well that it caused me to just forget. So that I put that as my number one.
Yeah, so it takes you in, doesn't it? Streaming.
Yeah.
So I'll go then. I really like Frontier Psychiatrist. I really like Tonight. Live at Domino's. Like at least two of those songs. I know you really like Ritalin, so I'm just kind of going with the flow on this one. But it's a really good album. Like I've only listened to it a handful of times, but I really want to listen to it more and really get to know it and appreciate it, because it's like I said, it's just a full hour of just like nonstop music. It's just a perfect flow from beginning to end. It's wonderful. My least favorite is like Ito, like I said, but even then, what does that mean? Least favorite? It's just the one that is a little bit simpler, a little bit less than the rest, but it's still a good song. It has balance. It needs to be there.
Yeah, I fully agree when it comes to least favorite. And for favorites, I mean, songs like Radio and Since I Left You there early in the track list are, for the first half of this album, easily the best. Especially, I think I probably prefer Radio over Since I Left You, but I mean, they're pretty neck and neck. And some of the other days, Since I Left You, I prefer over Radio. And then obviously you have that banger at the end of Live at Domino's, but also Electricity is another one that's been a favorite overseas, but Frontier Psychiatrist is just the song off the album, in my opinion. It is not only a perfect example of the album, it's, my opinion, a perfect song.
It's really good.
Chicks, if you could rank all these albums, how would you put them?
Well, there's going to be a little bit of an upset. 4 and 3 interchangeably will be the AFI EPs. And that's not to say I didn't like them. I really enjoyed them, but it's just I enjoyed Rush and the Avalanches quite a bit more.
Yeah.
For number 2, this is where the upset's going to be. It's going to be the Avalanches.
I kind of expect.
And I have a bit of a reason to.
I'm assuming it's emotional attachment for. I think you said you've had a bit of an emotional detachment of Since I Left You and a bit of an emotional attachment for Cygnus, so I'm not too surprised here.
Yeah, and it also has to do with my mom's ex-boyfriend really loved this album, so I had to listen to it a lot. And so I just kind of associate it with him, and he's not really the best dude.
I mean, I'm sure if you could disassociate it, you'd probably put Avalanches higher.
I would put it higher if I could disassociate it.
I can't get you to dissociate. Fuck my pronunciations. Can't get you to do something like that so easily. So that's understandable.
Yeah, and number 1 is Rush.
I guess I'll go then. I think you want to go last, but if you don't want to, that's fine.
No, I'm going last. You go.
At number 4 for me, I don't want. I'm sorry to do this, Tricks, but Rush is last for me, just because
I understand. Don't worry.
Super get into it. I liked Book 2 more. I think after that is a Fire Inside EP, just because it's the lesser of the 2 EPs. It's a little bit earlier. It's a little bit rougher. Because in Hollow Hollows EP is just super great. All the songs are really good, I think. And so that's number 2. And then number 1 is just Avalanches by a mile. It is a really good album.
At number 4 and number 3, I'm putting in a bit of a tie here. I would put the Fire Inside EP and Rush as kind of a tied third place. Because, kind of thinking about it, I kind of think the same way about both albums. I think I probably did enjoy the Fire Inside EP a bit more, but I think the Rush one is a bit more impressive. So, I'm kind of going to tie those ones. But the Fool's Hollow one is a mile above both of them, in my opinion, anyway. And then Avalanches, yeah, I put that higher than Neutral Milk Hotel, so.
Okay, that's your new number 1 album of the whole podcast.
Yeah. Look,
right.
You got its legacy. You have emotional attachment for it, because I've been listening to this since I was making songs of this as I was a kid. And it's fucking incredible. It's, like I said before, that when we were doing the rankings, that Land of Pleasure was like a 10 out of 10, and then anything that gets above that would be 11 out of 10. So it'd be like, they're great, they're perfect, and more. And this is an album that's perfect and more, in my opinion. It's not to say that I put this miles above Neutral Milk Hotel. I don't think they're pretty close together, but I mean, it's still undeniably, in my opinion, better.
My list right now, it's at number 6. So it's below Janelle Monáe, but above Gautier.
I'd have to think about it for me.
I recommend just trying to disassociate with something like that. Because
I will try.
But if you can't, like, no one's gonna blame you there.
Yeah.
It's like telling me to disassociate Crystal Castles from the Controversy, and I can't do that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's not like me, who I can disassociate the Sticky Fingers album from their controversy. Although I did kind of still associate it because it was some lyrical content. But yeah, I'm a hypocrite. Anyway, albums
What's
next week, or do
what's
we
the
do?
song?
Yeah, best song. Sorry.
What's the song we want to out of all the songs? What's the one song that we want to suggest to people?
Look,
I'll go first, I
yeah.
guess.
I just want to point out before you do this, with suggestions, I'm not going to take this as a best song out of all of them. I think it's just the best one to suggest like something that no one's heard out of all of these that needs to be heard.
I'm doing it more of a. You should really listen to this album and just start with this is the first song. I'm going to say, since I left you, the first song off of Since I Left You.
For me, I think a lot of people have known The Boy Who Destroyed the World, so that'd be a good suggestion. But I think people should really listen to Foul Children. I think that the one deserves to have its moment too.
Look, I would pick a Frontier Psychiatrist Since I Left You, but those are the ones that are like already quite well known, and they were two of the biggest singles. I would say the one to actually like. Obviously, I've kind of been hinting at this throughout the whole episode. The one I would say to kind of listen to is Live at Domino's, because that one's just crazy, and in a fun banger way. Flight 22 was up to Honolulu. Flight 22 was up to Honolulu.
Albums next week then. Riddlin, you go first.
Yeah. So I haven't fully decided the album I choose here, so you two can argue. I'm going to say it's by the same artist either way.
Okay.
And you two just choose which year, 2016 or 2017. Go.
2016.
What's the 2016?
You say 2016?
Yep.
Hey Dominic, how do you get a music nerd to just not stop talking?
Given to me?
Nah. The answer is that you go up to them and you start saying, Nonagon Infinity opens the door. Nonagon Infinity opens the door. Waiting for the answer to open the door. I'm choosing Nonagon Infinity for next week.
What is it?
King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizards, Nonagon Infinity. We are finally getting into some King Gizzard in my Australian album topics here. Obviously, King Gizzard is one of the most kind of well-known acts right now, having a bigger discography in the 10 years they've been around than some artists do in 30.
That's interesting. I'm interested in listening to that.
And Nonagon Infinity is the first one we're going to choose. I have a couple albums from them that I will be. The 2017 one was going to be Flying Microternal Banana, and the other one will be in December 2019. I'll be choosing one of them.
All right.
But Nonagon Infinity is the one I choose the next week.
You want me to go next?
Go next for this one. So because of the two AFI EPs, I feel comfortable repeating myself for once. So we're going to listen to On Avery Island from Neutral Milk Hotel.
Oh boy. I'm going to throw in a real curveball myself. I'm going to do the album Fire of Unknown Origin by Blue Oyster Cult.
Okay.
This is the album that has the song Burnin' For You.
No, that's a good one. That's a good song.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm. And I actually have a bit of a... I've met the guitarist Buck Dharma, so I have a bit of a in with this band a little bit. Not a big one, but...
I just want to point out, because On Avery Island has a couple of versions, are we including the ones that include Everything Is and Snow Song, or are we ending at Pre-Sisters?
Ending at Pre-Sisters.
We'll discuss this off air.
It's important because there's a couple different versions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just so that I got the right one lined up into my playlist to listen through throughout the week.
It's the one that's 12 tracks and April 8th, Pre-Sisters. Yeah, nothing else after that. I probably want to do Snow Song and all that, maybe with Everything Is, but I don't know if we ever get there.
Trying to see where I threw some of that. I swear I put the Blue Oyster Cult onto the playlist, but I didn't want to do that. Oh no, I might have I think I know what I did. Yeah, no, I copied it to my clipboard. I'm a smart man. Alright, so next week we got King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizards, Nonagon Infinity, Neutral Milk Hotels on Avery Island, which I controversially say that Naomi is the best Neutral Milk Hotel song.
It's definitely controversial.
And Blue Oyster Cult's Fire of Unknown Origin, in which, I mean, I've somewhat listened to a bit of Blue Oyster Cult, not much of them, back when I was a kid. So, actually listening to a full album of them is going to be fun.
All right.
This has been a Dissonant Waves podcast. I am stealing this bit from Dominic. Haha, suck it. I have been Ritalin. You can catch me at ritalinforkids.github.io. I also have a YouTube channel that I'll probably copy into the description. I haven't released anything in a couple of weeks. Dincy Plains got old. There's no fun with that anymore.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
And I'm Dominic. You can catch me on Twitter at DACICHOCKI. I also write for Tilting Windmill Studios and other places if you want to check out those places. We also have a Dissonant Waves Twitter you can follow at Dissonant Waves if you want to keep up on our episodes and some of our thoughts. And just a note, after this next week, we're going to be doing another 2019 album thing. So get ready for that. That's going to be fun and hopefully better than our LSD episode.
Yes.
I'm picking an album that I've actually know is good. I'll probably be doing a bit of a cheat for that one, but it will be 2019 stuff, so do not worry.
I'm gonna do an indie band that qualifies as electro funk.
I have 3 choices. I don't know which I'm going to pick.
Choose the second one.
Okay.
Yes.
You're going to be so mad. Oh my God. I had like imagined you saying that on, and then you actually said it. Okay, this is going to be Ritallin's request then. So get ready.
All right. I've been tricked. You can catch me at Procrastinator on Twitter, and I have a YouTube channel now. It's Moonchild. I will upload a profile picture eventually. It's just going to be stuff about like bass modifications and stuff like that. So if you're a nerd like I am, feel free to subscribe.
So I promise that on my website and on my YouTube channel, I do not sing, like I have been doing throughout this episode. I realize that my voice is terrible. Do not get me wrong on that.
When's the album coming?
Look, I have a couple EPs I put up on there with just some shit posting. That's the one where I simulated the phone ringing sound by putting a fidget spinner up to a ukulele string. So,
Cool. I kind of dig that.
So my experimentation knows no bounds.
Girl, JPEG Mafia over there.
Hell yeah, man! Jesus forgive me, I am a fot. Fuck, I need to make a meme. Just you know that the Drake and just like the no and the yay. Just no for Jesus is king. Yay for Jesus forgive me, I am a fot.
My Heroes Are Cornballs was one of the options that you didn't pick.
Fuck! I like that album.
What was the option? You cut out for a second for me. I missed it. What was the album that we didn't pick?
My Heroes Are Cornballs by JPEG Mafia.
I like that album. Fuck! Oh god, no, what have I done?
All right, let's end this. This has been Dissonant Waves. Have a good night or good morning or whatever time it is, y'all.
Happy Halloween. Don't say spectacular unless it's Halloween or you'll sound like a gay racist.
Alright, see you next time.